Greetings, my name is Jadrian Tarver and I am the choir director at Eastminster Presbyterian Church. Today I would like to share with you the behind the scenes on how the music is made for worship. So, the first thing I would like to talk about is the different steps that it takes in order for me to prepare the music for worship. After I receive the hymns from Kristen, I like to sit down and think about the tempo, the lyrics. A lot of the hymns lately have been very unfamiliar to me, so I have to take the necessary steps to learn them. But for the purposes of today, I would like to show you how the music is produced. The first step I would like to talk about is how the instrumental and piano tracks are laid. The second step is how I lay the vocal tracks. And the third step is how I like to mix and master the music so that I can make it good for the service. So please stay with me and I'm going to take you through this journey of the behind the scenes on how to record and make music for worship. So what you're looking at is Logic Pro X. It is the software I use in order to create the music for worship. So for the purpose of this tutorial, or to give you the behind the scenes, I'm going to create a music track for you, and I think I'm going to use Precious Lord Take My Hand as the hymn. So let me go ahead and do that for you. So I'm going to create the software, an instrument, and then I'm going to add audio line and click back on the classic electric piano. And over here in my music library, I have an assortment of sounds in which that I can choose from for this. So I think I'm going to use a piano. And then I'm going to use the Yamaha piano. In fact, and if we look over here at this display box, it gives me how many beats, the tempo, as well as the time signature. So let me go ahead and play something for you. Here we go. One, two. All right, so I've just played through the piano part, as you can see. If you notice that this is sort of kind of not on the downbeat and the parts are not aligned together, so I'm going to open up the piano roll here and I'm going to select all because I want all the beats to line up where they're supposed to. It makes it so much easier when I have to edit this later. So I'm going to quantize, which basically makes it shorter. And as you saw, it all lined up. And let's listen to it briefly so you can hear it. It's on the downbeat. You know, this technology is extremely great, but sometimes it has its drawbacks because there's a delay between my keyboard and the software. So in order to fix that, I can easily do it through quantizing it. So this is how I create the piano track for services. Track. Typically, after I finish the piano track or instrumental track, I'll record the audio track. So what I'm going to do for you is go ahead and record Precious Lord so you can see what it is like when I do this. Precious Lord. First, I have to be on the audio track. You know, I often make these simple mistakes. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. finish recording the vocal line or vocal track, I may do a little bit of mixing and mastering, as you can see, play with leveling of the different tracks. But right now we only have a piano and vocal track, just to give you an idea of what it looks like when I'm doing this. And as you can see, there are different types of EQs. And right now you see I have all these different things I can do with the voice. I can compress the sound, I can do an edge vocal. And after I go and work through this and try to balance the sound, then I'll just share it. And while it's sharing, it's going to bounce it and put it together, and then be ready for me to send to Heather so she can put it a part of, however she does what she does for the video aspect of the service. So this is just a little bit of what I do in order to make the music happen at for worship, and see these different types of EQs and all this stuff that you go through to try to make it sound good. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you learned some new information and found inspiration to go out and start creating music for yourself.
Hey Eastminster, this is Kristen. I'm coming to you from my home. I just finished filming worship for Sunday, and so I thought I would give you a little bit of a behind the scenes look at what I do to film worship, what it takes on my end to do this era of virtual worship. So come with me and I'll give you a look. So this is what you would normally see when you tune in to worship on Facebook or YouTube. You will see this backdrop. So let me zoom out some, show you the wider view. We are in my living room, and I sit on that stool right in front of my TV to film worship. You can also see the tripod that I use. I film on my phone. I put it on that tripod and I use my iPad behind it. It contains the liturgy and the bulletin for me to read from as I film worship. Obviously, there's a lot of steps that go into worship. As you can see from this backdrop right here, I went to the church when our sermon series started. Our sermon series is Unraveled. And I took my fabric and my yarn and I set the seed in our sanctuary, just as I might have done for in-person worship. But of course, this time I had to take pictures. And I picked a picture to display on my TV so it helps us feel like we are still present in that sacred space that is ours. And then I had the scene come out onto my TV stand where I have that same yarn and fabric and candle, all from the church. It's just brought into my home. So I typically film all of the worship pieces on Thursday. And then after I'm done filming, I upload them to a shared drive that all of the staff has access to. I do some of the editing of our films and Heather does others. And once she has all those files, once all my files and the musicians' files are to her in that folder, she then takes them and compiles them into one large video for worship. And she's going to give you a little insight as well into her portion of making worship happen. I know we all miss being together, and I know we miss being in our sanctuary. Folks have asked me what I miss most about in-person worship, and I miss everything. I miss seeing your faces as I preach. I miss singing together and speaking together and breathing together. I miss that experience of the Holy Spirit that we get when we are in one place at one time praising God. And yet I am also grateful. I'm grateful for the ways that we have been able to reach more people through virtual worship, for the ways that you have all contributed your videos and pictures and led liturgy during this time. And I'm grateful for our staff who works hard every week to put these services together. So I hope you've enjoyed getting a glimpse into my home and my worship process. And I pray that God's peace be with you.
Hi friends, it's Heather Meyer. Today I'm going to walk you through a little bit about what I do to help Eastminster worship online. My job right now is to do the video editing for worship. So I take all the pieces from Kristen that you already seen in her behind the scenes video, and I take all of the hymns from Jadrian, and I take all of the music that Tamar brings in for the service as well. I download them, put them on my computer, which you can see here in the back, and run them through an editing program. So I'll take you through a little bit, a step-by-step, on what we do to help make worship happen. Okay, so this is what a typical setup for me looks like. We have the bulletin that Kristen gives to me every week, and it's set up just like we are used to seeing it. However, I get added notes in, usually in red because it helps me see it. But how the pieces of worship that we are used to seeing, hymns, call to worship, prayer of confession, offering, and things, big things like the sermon and the time for children, and the hymns and things like that. They all come to me from Jadrian and Tamar and Neil and Kristen, and they get sent into our shared Google Drive. So the Google Drive is cloud-based system that we all have access to. So as you can see, there's lots of different parts and pieces in here. Kristen, she pointed out to you from home, films each section of the service that she's involved in. She then downloads those videos into this Google Drive for this specific Sunday. She also includes the slides for our hymns, to introduce all of the hymns. Jadrian puts in his vocal and piano tracks for the hymns into this file once he's completed them. Tamar puts in her prelude and postlude in here as well, and Neil will put in his time for children. My job at this point is to take all of these files, download them to my computer, which I do, and I like to separate them because I like to be a little bit more organized, and I take them into a file, and I follow, let me scroll back here to the top of our bulletin. I follow the bulletin order. So when I am putting a service together, we always have a few minutes before the service starts on a welcome. Okay, you can see I've taken the file that I have downloaded and I have put it into my editing system. So we have a welcome and we have a prepare for worship, and we like to go back and forth between those for a little bit. So I will drag these in here, and I can make them longer. So right now I'm expanding this clip to about 30 seconds long, because that's typically about how long we give each one at the beginning. Okay, so you can see that I can click and drag and make it longer. I can make it shorter. When we get in between slides and we talk about how it shifts, that is another part of the editing program that I have on my computer. So I can pick, typically I do a little bit of a slide. Okay, and you can see in the top right how it slides into the next option. So this right now is just the gathering, And in comes the prelude. So Kristen has made a slide in which we can see who is playing. Typically it's Tamar. And I like to edit the slides so that they stay put. Moving slides are distracting, I feel like, for me anyway, and it takes a little bit away from what's happening. So I have put in the slide for the prelude for Sunday, and I go back to my file and I find Tamar's music. And you see how the music is green and it has these waves underneath. If you fast forward, it sounds sort of funny, but I have to match up the visible slide that you see with the amount of time that the music happens. And then I come back up here and I drag in another little transition to the next thing. And then when I am ready for the next part of worship, typically I have not at this point downloaded Kristen's file for welcome. See, down here at the bottom it says welcome movie. Okay, and I take it out of the Google file and I have to download it to my computer. And while we wait for that to happen, I will slide in the other parts of worship that I have already previously downloaded. So after Kristen does the welcome for worship, we do the call to worship, just like we would do if we were in the sanctuary. Okay, so for this week, see, it happens to be the Calvangian family. And we like to add in their name too, just so that whoever is watching can also get to know who these people are, who these members are. So I select the type of title that I want, and you see how it says name in the upper right hand corner here of my editing. So I can go in and type in that it's going to be Sue and Melanie. Okay, and then I make sure that that stays put, so then when you see the slide, I'll play a little bit of the slide here. So that's ending for our prelude, the transition. Okay, now we can barely hear them, so my job at this point is to raise the volume so that you all can hear them. And I have to go back and forth between all of the slides.
So much life begins and ends.
Okay, so their volume has been brought up so that we all can hear them again. I put in another little transition. I head back over to the bulletin to see what's next, and I see what's next is the first hymn. So I have already downloaded the first hymn for Come All You People. So I put Come All You People slide into a program. Okay, and I can edit. I'm making it a little larger, but see how it moves? And I don't really, that's what I'm talking about being a little distracting, and I don't really like it. So I come up in my editing bar and I make it fit to the screen instead of being a Ken Burns, which is a style based on the director. He did a lot of moving parts and pieces, and so I don't really want that, but so I have to change it now because Kristen and Bridget have given me the hymn for the week. They give me the music out of our hymnal. We have permission to copy that, so they give me a nice big copy of it. and I make it large and long so that it stays with the music that Jadrian has put in. Once he gives me his recording, I will take it from my computer file and I will drag it in just like I did with the prelude, and I will attach it to the hymn, to the music, so that we can see this. So every single part of the worship service that we are used to seeing in our bulletins and used to participating in, and that we see every week, I have to enter into the editing system that I have. At the end of that, it takes me about an hour and a half or 2 hours, depending on the week. Once I have everything loaded into the editing system, Kristen and I typically talk and we go through and make sure that I have all the transitions and all of the names spelled correctly, and that I don't forget things like the prayer of illumination, or I don't forget the title slide for the sermon or things like that. And then once she has given me the okay, I download it out of the editing program back onto my computer so that I have a hard copy of it. And then from that point, I upload it to Facebook and I upload it to YouTube so that we are ready to go for Sunday. I hope that gives you a little bit of a view on what my job has turned into during this time of pandemic and stay at home and online worship. It's a far cry from being the handbell director, but it's something that I have enjoyed doing and will continue to enjoy doing as long as we have to. Thanks, friends.